So I'm Evan Davison. I'm going to try and be a little bit more fluid and dynamic. I'm not really a fancy kind of guy, so I'm speaking at B-Sides this year. I'm kind of giving you guys the piece of that discussion at B-Sides. It's called Dungeons & Dragons, Siege Warfare and Fantasy Defense in Depth. And so you guys are kind of getting the first half, which is focusing on some of the technical stuff, the threat landscape, and how things are kind of out there right now. And a lot of this is very obvious stuff. If the talk sucks, like Chris said, I'll do something stupid or whatever and make it worth your while, and we'll have fun either way. I know nothing about D&D, so it just sounded like a really funny thing over some beers with Buddy. On occasion, I break stuff. My opinions do not represent that of my employers. I'll be, he's right here, by the way. But B-Sides, Black Hat, all that good stuff, you're going to be out there, hit me up, let me know. Lots of great parties and other things I'll be at, getting invites to go do some stuff. So if you're looking for somebody to come let out in Vegas, I'll also be at, I'm trying to go to some other stuff in September, as well as I am scheduled to speak at the ISSA International Conference. So that's in October timeframe, but some stuff there you can get in touch with me. This talks about the future. At B-Sides, they have a track called Breaking Grounds, and so the point of this discussion is looking at the past, looking at the present, and then trying to see where we need to go into the future. And so put your thought process on that, because we're going to cover some things that might seem a little bit obvious, but sometimes that obvious thing is just completely lost. Anybody seen Moneyball? The code name for this was, I'm developing, this was written with a good friend of mine, Dr. Noah Schiffman, and we used code name Moneyball for this, for the first half of this. So we're going to start with a little bit about the past and siege warfare, D&D, what did we learn? Things got bigger. These dudes kill these dudes, they build a better weapon. These dudes kill those dudes, they build a bigger weapon. We've got castles, we've got siege. The Trojans come in, they wipe out the castle. Blah blah blah. Nuclear warfare and cyber ninjas. So what happened? Technology rapidly advanced. The stuff that we were doing becomes obsolete very quickly. And like I said, nuclear weapons are bad, and cyber ninjas are awesome. So what happened? At some point in the past 100 years or so, primarily, although it dates back to the beginning, there was a shift in warfare from where it wasn't just about who had the bigger weapon, it was about who had the most information. And so there was a huge benefit to this. So technologies arose around sustaining government cryptography to keep their secrets and to keep them safe and to keep their information private. So the very base bit of encryption was about preserving confidentiality of information. It wasn't about all the other stuff that we worry about now. The power to bring down governments, right? I mean, we've got some great examples just in the past few months of, what are we protecting? What was more damaging to our country in the past few months? The fact that we're blowing stuff up in another country, or the fact that secrets were leaked and revealed things about our government and the things that we're doing? So what have we learned from thousands of years of history and that type of stuff? That we have to adapt our defenses. Intelligence becomes more important than, in some instances, than the quality of the weapons or the size of the weapons that we have. The other thing, this is pretty obvious to me, especially this is why I did the infographic there. The attacker always gets in. I'll talk about that. I don't know, any red team guys in here? Do you ever not get in?
You always get in.
You always get in, okay? It's all about time, resources, whatever it is. Spies, insider threat. We just need another example. We just had 3 of them there. So, anybody watch Archer? Danger Zone. You get it. All right. Most of this stuff doesn't have anything to do with anything. So, a really confusing quote from T.S. Eliot. Really kind of sums it up. The future and the past pretty much are the same. So, the past is now the future, and I get confused, and I've read it 5 times. So, talking about right now, what is the current landscape of security and this understanding that we have? There's this concept that staffing needs will decrease over time. That as we as we shift and we get more automation, that will be more secure, that we'll need less people to do it, that it's cheaper because we've automated it, and that we'll always be at 100% security, right? It's, that's what we always tell our bosses. Oh yeah, we're secure. Or I don't know, but maybe some of you do. Maybe some of you in the room think that you're secure. Well, I wish I could live there again. You can ask these guys. I come back from Vegas and DEF CON every year, and last year I think it was a week before I connected back to the internet. So let's set the stage here. Let's have a real world example. Let's just have some fun with it. This is greatly exaggerated, and in no way has it ever happened in any of your organizations. So admin guy meets security dude, and so security dude is like, we practice, or admin guys like, we practice defense in depth. If you don't know what defense in depth is, there's a little picture of it. This is, the concept that we have these concentric rings of protection around our networks and our assets. But I put it this way on purpose because as we usually get closer, we find that those defenses become less and less concrete. They become a little bit more permeable or non-existent, as I often find in testing. So down the rabbit hole we go, right? I'm secure. I've got my level 8 Paladin firewall that's protecting my network, and if you get past that, I've got my IDS that's going to disarm your Smurf attack. That's an old one for some people. Anyways, it still comes up in IDS signatures. Are you freaking kidding me? You know what I mean? Smurf attack. I see it all the time. It's like, you're going in and you're tuning logs, and it's like, why are my logs so heavy? Well, you might want to turn some of these old things off that are never going to get in. At least you hope, right? So even if you get past that, security dude, I've got a new SIM appliance from name this vendor there, and then I've got 18 different vendor products of anti-stuff that are going to keep you off of it. And even if you do get in, or if you get past all of that, I'm admin ninja, and I'm going to come to the rescue, and I'm going to stop you. And it's all going to be rainbows and unicorns and all that good stuff. So let's play a game. Let's play a game called Fantasy Defense in Depth. So we're going to figure this out. So admin guys ready? Let's play, right? So how do we play? 3 easy steps. Tower defense strategy. Everybody know what tower defense is? Show of hands. All right. If those of you that play tower defense games know what's coming. All right. What happens in tower defense? Don't answer. So then we're gonna so we understand tower defense. Now we're gonna gather our resources. So we don't need to belabor this point, but we can't do anything about time. So we've got our iron triangle for those project managers in the room of time, resources, and scope. So we're going to focus right here on the 2 things that we have some level of influence in, which are resources and scope. And so I love this question because the resources are, here's nothing, and what do you want me to monitor? I want you to monitor everything. I want you to see everything. Well, no crap, that isn't going to work, and we see it every day, and those of you that have to administrate these systems and networks and other things, I'm preaching to the choir, so we'll move on. The magic part here is resources, right? This is where the most flow comes in. So what do those resources look like? Maybe it's people, maybe it's assets. We're going to talk about some resources here that you can get and might help you declutter and denoisify your network. So let's gather our resources here, right? So we're gonna. This is the things that you're supposed to have and some of the great things. And I don't know why this thing is supposed to advance automatically. And I'm trying to cover a lot here, so I'm trying to keep it moving because I'm condensing probably about 45 minutes down into as tight as possible so that I don't have to look at my ugly mug anymore. So you gather your resources, right? You set your phasers to stun. You got your white lists and your black lists, your anti-stuff. You get your network ninja dudes. I love these. I just got back from Cisco Live a few weeks ago, and everybody's got network monitoring, and there's all these ninjas that are handing out swords and all this stuff, and it's like, woohoo! We got ninjas. And then, the new thing that I love this year was the thing that's going to save security and save the world is big data. The more you can record, you can see everything, every packet that hits your network from now to eternity. What the hell are you going to do with it once you get it? It's like a dog chasing a car. You know what I mean? Like, even if you catch it, you're probably going to be dead. So you're just going to get run over by it. And I see this again and again. Now, I love big data. My talk at ISSA is about big data for security compliance, but it's for gathering compliance stuff. And the irony of it is that we used a big data tool and 37 megs of test data to show an organization tons more information than they had about their security posture from any of their expensive tools. And we did it for free. So come to ISSA, it's fun. You'll get to see some of that. So we got our resources together. Let's prepare for the siege. So now we have this resource issue, right? Now we got all our stuff. It's this aspect of, I don't need people, I don't need anything else. I'm just going to go buy a bunch of stuff, right? You see this all the time. I bought this Dell M1000E chassis with 16 blades and 15 terabyte whatever mega drives of stuff, and I don't even well, what are you doing with it? Well, we don't even know how to power it on. It's sitting in that rack in the back of Spay War. Anybody? No. All right. So what's really happening? We just created a buttload of noise. We have no idea what we were looking at because we didn't have any idea in most instances what we were looking at to begin with. We didn't really understand that the tools and the things that we had in our networks and our environments were probably providing us enough information to tell us what we need. But we get that big, I call it the big beautiful butterfly syndrome. You just, oh, look at that shiny, and you just keep going after it. It's anyways. So we haven't really targeted anything. So you're targeting what vendors tell you. What do they know about your environment? You just turn on a signature set and hope to God that it works. How do you know that it's doing anything for you? Now, I will give it. Some of these environments, Spay War, some of these, a lot of military environments, yeah, they'll have guys that sit down and do nothing but program IDS signatures. They're watching those logs, they're pounding it out. But that's a resource allocation that most organizations don't have. And what they're doing is they're buying these things because somebody's telling them that they need them. And that best practice says that you're supposed to have them. But how do we capitalize on them? In most instances, I can't even tell you how many times I go into a consultant organization and they just DOS themselves. They got more crap than they got time to deal with. And so, okay, now he's ready. Are you sure? Okay, he's ready now. Let's go, admin guy. We've got our resources. Let's prepare for the siege. So let's play some fantasy defense in depth. Example 1. I call this one semi-permeable membranes. I send an email, and it gets all the way through, the attacker. All he's got to do is send an email, right? And, somehow it gets through all this stuff and gets to the end user. Yeah. I guess the thing that's hilarious to me is that this still works, people. I mean, I wouldn't talk about it if it didn't work. Don't click on the email. So, admin guy, okay, so phishing's a bad example. Let's talk about what is working. This is in the news. Watering hole attacks. Anybody heard about watering hole attacks? Yes. Show of hands, all right? This is serious stuff. Think about what it takes to develop that type of intelligence to know where your admins and your developers are going. So the watering hole concept is that I see on LinkedIn, or I'll just kind of go through the basic process. You go through LinkedIn or you go through something like that. I look at your job postings. I look at what your resumes that your guys are posting online. Whatever it is, however I gather my intelligence, maybe I even apply for a job at your company and get an interview. That never happens. I do that. But it's fun to see what people are doing. And so what you do is you get this information, this organizational intelligence, and they're asking you questions on the interview, like what types of, what's your experience with this firewall? Or hey, when was the last time you did this in this product or you did that? Well, guess what? I know exactly what you're doing. I know where your weaknesses are because you're trying to hire a guy like me with my skill sets to come in and do this stuff for your organization. That's where I'm going to start. I'm going to start right there. So maybe what I do is I start putting out some forums and stuff and wait for some of your guys. I target some of your guys, the tools that would help them with their stuff. Or maybe on the interview I even tell them this is a great website you can go to and get this stuff. That's the watering hole attack. Microsoft, Facebook, Twitter, all these guys are getting hit with this stuff. Developers are especially prone to it or susceptible to it because you're working on very concise code bases and they're looking for somebody that's done this very specific thing. So you can start looking at these, going on forums and trolling and seeing developers and put together where they work if they don't just outright tell you that in the first place. So does that make sense? Hopefully, yep, organizational intelligence. So watering hole attacks. So I love this. I'm going to include a couple of examples. We don't allow that in our organization. We have a policy. Awesome. Users don't click emails. We give them online training that teaches them to click links. Oh, enable Flash. That Java cookie, yes. Unsigned applet, we need to trust that so you can get to the vendor. Love those. Epic fail. Again and again and again. We'll keep moving on. Example number 2, because we don't have much time. Here we go. Oh, thanks, LinkedIn. Security dude. They have cloud services in their organization. Wait a minute, security dude. We do not use the cloud or BYOD. Anybody believe that for their organization? If security professionals in the room, anybody? Good, because we all know it's true. You probably connect your own personal phone or whatever to your corporate network. Even if you don't, this is hilarious, especially with defense contractors and such. Concur, anybody's company use Concur? Lots of them do. Do you get paid by ADP or any other payment processing vendor that does payroll? Another big one, Deltek. All sorts of information in there about you, believe it or not. It all feeds the payroll systems. It does all this stuff. So the whole point of this is, all of your data, BYOD is happening, whether it's you just checking your webmail from home or whatever. Your data is not inside this perimeter anymore. This concept that you can build this tower, that you can build this defense that is impermeable, and that you can hide your weaknesses on the inside, it's just not realistic anymore. So we keep going on. So we got this policy example again. We don't allow that. How many companies? I don't know if any of your companies, show of hands, like social media policies that you have to sign or anything like that. Very, very, very few companies are doing that. A lot of them will try to tag it in an employee handbook or something like that. But not that those things are going to protect you, but it's this concept that all the users understand this. So again, I say epic failure. Grumpy Cat is not amused at the state of affairs. Sir Grumpy Cat, I will add. He has a suit of armor. This is what defends my network. So currently, this concept, security equals bad guys are out and our data is inside, so therefore it's confidential and secure. So I love this. This was just a few weeks, about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I got somebody forwarded me this report from Gartner. I think Mandiant released it. So if you get the Mandiant webinars, Gartner released this. And I'll just kind of summarize this because it was so perfect. I had already submitted B-Side's talk. We were doing this. We were developing some of the stuff that we're going to get to here at the end. And it just totally summarized everything that we were trying to say, which is this: resistance is futile, prevention is futile. That by 2010, continuous compromise will be the state of affairs. That your corporate network doesn't stand a chance. There is nothing you can do to keep the bad guys out. Financially motivated attacks or whatever it will be, that IT will lose control in an epic proportion, and every attempt to harness it will be even worse than it was. Now, do I know that any of that's going to happen? I have no idea. Do I think that that's the likelihood? Do I think the report was overstating it? Not really. It was a good report. You can go online, Gartner report, and it started with something like prevention is futile or whatever. But so let's talk about some of these technologies and such that we've implemented and that haven't helped us at all, apparently, right? We've got our IDSs and all these other things that people continue to get by, but yet we spend more and more time and more money implementing them. I'm going to throw it out. It was in the abstract, right? Throw it out. What's the value proposition of a firewall these days? Ooh, I have stateful inspection. Hooray. It doesn't do anything for you. Maybe some information leakage of, you don't want, some, UDP traffic escaping the network, but I'll be honest with you, how many of you, do you even know if your corporate network has deny any outbound? Thank you. These are things that just are hilarious. They set the fail open, whatever. There's a corporate network that I know of nearby that anytime they have redundant firewalls, but only one web proxy, and it's in line. So when the web proxy fails, it just, it fails wide open because they didn't want to pay the extra $15,000 to buy another one. seriously? I mean, you spent the money, what's the value here? So the reality is, as we move forward, what firewall do you have that's protecting this guy? What, you got your email in Google Apps or wherever else. None of this stuff is doing anything for you. Screw it, host-based defense. Find a way to better manage your assets that way, if that's what you got. I'm just throwing some concepts out here. If everything's already outside the perimeter, what difference does it make? Now, I'm not saying don't protect your core assets if you got a server farm or something like that. Yes, a firewall is a great administrative tool to help you, segment off your network or whatever. But we spend far too much time administrating those devices than we really do securing our networks, than we really do trying to evaluate what threat vectors we have, even identifying whether or not somebody's in there or not. Firewall can be a great tool for that. Honestly, I rarely see that that's the case. I never hear anybody go, man, if I was just watching my firewall, it would have prevented those guys from getting in there in the first place. So the other big piece of this, I laugh my butt off anytime somebody tells me that they have DLP or some McAfee product that, doesn't allow DVD writing or whatever. Admin, stop service, burn DVD, done. Piece of cake. So here's my bright idea, and this is kind of what the talk at B-Sides is about. We get into a lot more technology because you think, why would anybody come to B-Sides? Well, I live in Vegas and listen to a bunch of stuff that I already knew and that I probably could have put together on my own in a 10-minute thought process. This whole concept of data loss, this whole concept of protecting perimeters, forget about it. Let's protect the data. The data is what's important. We learned that from the military. We learned that from history. Intelligence is key. Why are we protecting the assets that hold the data when we've already, I'll ask you, show of hands, have we agreed that resistance is futile, that you're going to get hacked, whatever, blah, 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 you can't secure the devices, all right. Just have fun. You guys have fun trying that, all right? The STIG works. It does everything for you. That gold disk thing, hit remediate all. Tell me what happens. So what have we learned here? So we have to adapt our defenses. The data is already out of our control. Data, we don't control, it's outside of the scope of our perimeter. Users are generating it every day, whether it be in the form of texts and emails and things like that they're doing. If you don't provide the assets to them to do these things, they're going to find their own ways to do it. We all know this. We're doing it every day because it makes our lives a little bit easier, and the technology isn't expensive that we have to have it work anymore. Some of the defenses are more trouble than they're worth, like we said. So let's go back to the future. I chose this quote because, damn doc, I'm late for school once. All right. This is going to kill at B-Sides people. They get me there. So let's talk about some modern techniques here. This is what we really came for, right? This is the education piece of this. Anybody heard of any of these? Active defense, collaborative defense, attribution or counterintelligence? Okay. I'm a huge counterintelligence dude. I love it. I suck at it and talk too much, so then I have to do a lot of counterintel and put a lot of stuff that's fake about me. So if you see me in a Guy Fawkes mask, I have nothing to do with Anonymous. It was a Guy Fawkes mask, and it's cool. No? Okay. So let's move on here. So active defense. There's a couple of schools of thoughts on this. I am not talking about hacking back. Yes, that is a part of active defense. Hacking back. Anybody ever wanted to do it? All right. Have you ever done it?
There are laws against it.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that comes into that. So I'm not going to get into all the legal issues and all the stuff about that. It doesn't even matter. Let's talk about stuff that we can do as practicing security professionals. So let's talk about some tools for active defense. So honeypots. How many of you have honeypots in your organization? Okay. How many of you take that a step further? I'm not just, I'm going to talk about some of these. I'm going to show you some tools in a minute. So if you got your notes, you might want to write some down, because if you don't know what these are, you definitely need to download and play with them. And you can do it on your corporate network, and they probably will never know. I do. I have VMware, THCP, SCORE. So we're talking about taking some of this stuff a little bit farther though, right? So honey stuff is what I like to call it. Honey pots are a very traditional thing. A lot of them deal, most of your typical honey pots deal with like ports and files, and they're watching directories, or you've got tripwire might be considered a honey pot, or an integrity tool that some people used to use it as a honey pot. But let's take it a step further. What are some of our assets? What are things that we want to see? Honey tables for our databases. Let's put some gooey, sticky, yummy data out there. Let's see if somebody hits it. And we know that when they do, we see it in our transaction logs, and we flag it, and we know that we need to watch because somebody's doing something they shouldn't do. Alien concept. I mean, it seems too easy, right? But guess what? Who's creating some fake tables? In a database is a very powerful tool. Honey hashes. You want to learn if you're susceptible to hash or pass the hash in your organization. Pass the hash. Anybody know what that is? Hopefully, everybody. Should I explain that? If you don't know what it is, it's all right. Cool. Pass the hash. It is a vulnerability that has been in Microsoft since the days of old. I'm talking all the way back to, I think, at least 95, 2012. Is still vulnerable to this attack, which is that all I have to do is dump your SAM database table, which there are hundreds of tools to do it. I can even do it in real time in memory. There are even some cooler ones out there like Mimikatz and all these other ones, part of Metasploit. So I dump your database table. I don't even have to crack your password. Okay, so you can have this 80,000 character whatever password. I don't care. I'm going to take the hash of that password. I'm going to dump it in the password field with your username on any Windows device on a domain that's even more powerful. Then I hit enter, and it goes. Score. Tom saw this. I did it too. I'm not going to say who I did that to recently. It works, and so create some hashes, put some stuff out there, log into it on a few boxes, and then watch to see who's logging in with it. It's an easy way to tell. Just an account that nobody logs into. You'll know really quick. If that account, you see that activity on your network, you're not logged. Why are we sitting here looking at all this, like this big list of failure logs and stuff like that? Most of the time, it's somebody fat-fingered a password. That doesn't do anything for me. I tied up resources looking at crap that is, I call it I'm trying to avoid the exploiters because we are in a professional environment. I'm not very professional, but okay. So the same thing, tokens, Kerberos tokens, tickets, whatever. These things can be created. These are awesome ways to figure some stuff out. Anybody black holes, concepts of black holes, put in some cool stuff. If you're not using some private address space or maybe, whatever, couple these two together, create a black hole that goes into a bunch of honeypots and make it look real. It's very effective. Hackers are very stupid most of the time. They don't see this one coming. So, like I said, it's not about hacking back. It's not about pen testing. You still have to take care. Don't get too aggressive. You're going to see some stuff that you don't want to see, in my experience. You're going to see some users that are just hopping around on file shares on your network because they weren't locked down and because they could. And if you think I'm crazy, then I give you the honeypot challenge or something. So some tools. Yay, tools. Data loss prevention and OSINT, so operational security intelligence. Maybe I think that's right. I say it wrong. I'm not a military guy. But there's a neat tool that came out at DEF CON last year. It's called Search Diggity. They incorporated a DLP piece in there as well. There's also a neat little metadata analysis tool called FOCA. And what you do is you just literally give it a domain. And both of these tools, Search Diggity is all about, you ever heard of Google dorking? The concept of going out on Google. These guys did something really awesome in the Search Diggity app. They did a completely packetless port scan of your network because, believe it or not, Google actually scans every single port, all 65,000 whatever ports, 536 ports on web servers. And so they actually did a Google query, found Google queries that could show you whether or not ports were open on networks and domains.
Thanks for the port scan, Google.
Genius! You don't have to send a single packet, okay? So there you go. FOCA is probably one of my favorite tools. I run it all the time because it's so easy. It just goes out and Googles for .docs, .xlsx, and all these other types of things. It brings them in and does metadata analysis on them. And so it pulls out stuff out of the Word documents that are their usernames, printers, all this type of stuff. I've actually had some organizations that printer's right around the hallway, right? You've never even been in this building before. network. Yeah, I know, but it was on Google. You know, it's named to this and it has this IP address. It's amazing what you can get with this. Active defense stuff. A lot of this stuff, there is a book that Paul Astorian and John Strange has put out. I'll have the name of it here, but it's Offensive Countermeasures. It's a Kindle-only book. It's a really short read. You ought to read it. Artillery, which is put out by Relic, a guy named Relic, who is Dave Kennedy. Everybody heard of Dave Kennedy? Puts out the Social Engineering Toolkit. So he made Artillery. Really, really cool tool. Runs in Ubuntu. It's a Python-based utility. Another fun one for those of you that want to know if you've got malware that's crawling around your network via USB devices. Oh, we disable USB devices. Bull crap. Ghost USB emulates a USB device plugged in. It actually creates and mounts like a little virtual ISO DMG file or whatever, and emulates USB device, and all it does is just sits there and watches to see if anybody tries to write anything to it, and it'll alert you when it does. So, some fun stuff. Collaborative defense. I love the concept. This is of having a wiki for all of you guys, or having a mail server, or whatever it is, or a list server, and all that stuff. Get on there and share information about attacks and things that you're seeing in your corporate networks. If you work with your security officers in your organization, talk to them about why this is important and why the risks are outweighed by the benefits of getting information. How am I doing on time? Okay. So collaborative defense, crowdsourcing intelligence. This is a big thing right now, right? We hear about like organizations sharing information with each other and stuff. Different professional groups like ISSA, SANS is also another one that's doing this. Now, and then the last piece, those of you that are in the military, the most like classified thing you can have is SAMI data, right? It's sources and methods. It's how we get this information. Let's develop our own SAMI data. There are ways that I do this, and mainly in the areas of counterintelligence. It's my SAMI, how I do it. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of that here in a second, and like I said, I'm trying to go quick and keep the time down for you guys. Attribution, the last piece of this is understanding who hacked you and trying to figure out why. I really don't care about this because, in my opinion, as a security professional, I never get to do anything about it anyways. I'm not a forensics guy, so I'm the wrong person to talk to about that. The forensics guys are real big on this, big forensics. Counterintelligence, fun stuff. I'm not a fan of the first piece here, obfuscation. Why am I not a fan? I put it in here because it's part of this, but try going in and getting, VMware or some other tool to connect to some SQL database on a non-standard port when the installer is hard-coded for a port. You can't change it until afterwards, and then you got to write a document on how to change the document to update the such and such, and you run into that crap and compatibility and all that stuff. So from an operational perspective, it sucks. From a hacker perspective, all it does is really piss you off. But this concept of obfuscation and trickery equals I get frustrated and I leave. So set up some honeypots along the way. Then you see when they're doing this, you can watch them leave. You can watch and see if they keep trying to go. I mean, set it up like you're attacking yourself, and you'd be surprised what you find. This is one of my favorite ones I mentioned earlier, revive trolling. Anybody know what a troll is? Online troll? Okay. You ever see that? You remember the post like, first, incendiary comment, I'm going to piss a bunch of people off. I don't care. I'm just going to drop the grade and content and run away and just watch the chaos and online forum, that type of stuff. Maybe that was a bad example, but go out there. Getting a great example of this. Anybody heard of Brian Krebs? Krebs on Security, killer blog. Read it. He's doing this type of stuff, and the information and intelligence that we're getting out of it is pretty incredible, right? So now I'm not advising you to go out and create a bunch of false identities and stuff like that. It's a great way to get targeted by attackers, and Krebs gets swatted on a regular basis as a promoting post. But some other fun things. This is what I love to do. Poison pills. I actually did this for a while. I actually created a PDF with kind of like a little phone home link in it. All it did was just like when you launch the PDF, it would just hit a website and come off, but it would tell me kind of where, and I could get an IP address of who visited the link, and it was my resume, so I'd send it out and be like, who's reading my resume? And so little poison pills that you can put out there on your network. You might waste some of your files and file systems. You might take them and hash them and put those in IDS signatures. I've had some success with, you want to see how files are getting moved around, or if you're concerned about data being exfiltrated from your network, put some, take hashes of some of those files that should be changing and just set, insert those as a unique signature and watch and see what happens, see if it moves around the network. If it trips the sensor, you know something's going on. So honey docs, all that good stuff. Moving on. For more information, if you want some stuff on some of the details of this, now this is just about the tools, and there's a neat little distro called the, that I mentioned somewhere in here, called the Active ADHD. It's pretty cool little utility. It's, yes, I have ADHD, but it has nothing to do with that. It's the Active Defense Harbinger distribution. Pretty cool little utility. Most of the tools, though, you can go get them off of GitHub or SourceForge or whatever and install them and deploy them on your own. Believe it or not, some of them actually do deploy into web hosting instances. Some of the fun ones that are on the utility, there's one called like Web Labyrinth. If you want to know if there's a crawler hitting your site, it just creates this infinite loop of anytime something hits the directories in Web Labyrinth, it creates new ones under it. It just like takes the web crawler and these are very kind of neat tools because you want to see this stuff happening to your site. You want to know where it's coming from. It helps you with attribution, it helps you with defense. It gives you that intelligence that you need. So they've got some stuff. Now the challenge is bringing all this together. So a lot of these tools are not for enterprise, right? A lot of them are just in development and stuff. So I'm going to kind of predict some of the future here, and I'll be honest with my remembering of some of these slides and how many more I have are getting kind of good here. I'm out of time. Hooray. So let's predict the future. So some of the things that if you don't know about this stuff coming up, this is stuff I would definitely tell you to go do some research on. It's what the second half of the talk at B-Sides is. That talk's significantly longer. Is on erosion of the perimeter. So that this is what is happening. This is going to continue to get worse and worse. Software-defined networking. Anybody? It's a big buzzword right now. Anybody software-defined networking know what it is or using in your organization? I don't see it out very many places. I'll put it this way: VMware guys, Cisco Nexus 1000 DB. Anybody relate?
Yeah.
All right. Good. Did you get it to work?
No, it's a piece of crap.
Yeah. All right. So software. So the idea is that we're pushing things farther and farther up the stack, allow application-to-application communication, and we don't have to go back down through physical layers and back up and all that type of stuff. You create this new layer for things to talk at. Well, guess what? You just created I gave this, I remember when I was at Cisco Live, I was like, so you just created the second generation hub. It's just all of this one layer. So anyways, the Internet of Things. Has anybody heard that? The concept that my Nike Fuel wristband is going to talk to somebody and they have all this great information about me and they know when I'm sleeping. Good for you. Zero infrastructure networking, borderless networks. I assume the majority of you are DoD. DARPA. This thing, they've had like an active thing out, and there's people trying to submit borderless networks and zero infrastructure for ages. They already exist in very low bandwidth, very specific environments. If you want to talk about some unclassified stuff on that, I've got some cool examples. Also the zero signature stuff, this whole HPSS is that push to it. DARPA's real big on. We don't have signatures, but ultimately, what's the point? This is a lesson in futility, right? We're behind the 8 ball again because the reason we need zero signature tools is because we can't seem to write code that's secure, and we can't seem to secure the assets because they just are going to keep getting hacked. And even when they do, we're going to invent a crossbow and they're going to invent a castle and then nuclear weapons and cyber ninjas, right? Cyber ninjas are the next nuclear bomb at this point, if you listen to the news, right? So focus on data protection, not data loss prevention. So a couple of projects that I have coming up, some guys are working on, I think called Project Kill Switch. We'll be releasing that at SkyDogCon, hopefully later this year in October. It's in Nashville. And it is pretty much it's kind of taking some of these technologies and some of these things and turning it into an enterprise-ready perspective, something that you can show to your bosses that, yes, these dangerous tools are, we have a way to monitor them and keep them safe in your organization. So kind of a fun little side project. Also, the thrilling conclusion encrypting all the things with presentation next. And so the concept of this is of presentation next is actually creating a new standardized presentation layer protocol that incorporates a lot of really neat security stuff by default. And so it would be designed so if you do it at a layer that any device can use, it's not like a lot of your existing DLP, it's not an application. It's something that just like FIPS 140-2 modules that you install into Java, we would do the same thing for it, but it would be a presentation layer data format that would allow you to encrypt and decrypt, and everything would be completely secure by default right now. I mean, it's not going to be perfect, but it's the concept of presentation next is to get people thinking about coming up with some new open source standards that we can implement over the next 5 years or less that incorporate this stuff. Because if data is the primary concern, why am I still building firewalls? Why am I building? It's less of utility. Let's just protect the data. Let's just make it secure. Let's secure all the things. Rambling. Any questions?
The throw out the perimeter thing, is that just like your idea of where things are going, or have you actually suggested that to clients or your...
Depends on the client, right? So I'll give you a great example. A lot of startups right now, they don't have an infrastructure. They come to they'll show up in a room like this and they'll all hang out. Maybe they have an office or whatever, but they're using air cards and they're using iPads and they're using all these devices. They got Google Apps, Dropboxes. They don't have file shares. They've got Dropbox and they're using Outlook and Office Online and all these other types of things. What freaking good does a firewall do them? Nothing. I mean, okay, I'm protecting this box while it's in this building, but I'm this new startup and I get to migrate all around and the freedom to be at home and all this other stuff. Harden the box. Put host. If you want to monitor and do those things, some great things like that would show you a hell of a lot more than a corporate firewall would show you for organizations where your deployed user bases. Anybody heard of Splunk, big tool, Splunk Storm? You know what Splunk Storm is? It's the cloud-based equivalent for Splunk, so you don't have to have any infrastructure or whatever. It's kind of pricey, but an interesting little thing. You get a gig for free if you want to go play with it. Install a Splunk agent on their box and let it report all this, report your IP tables log or something like that to it, and then that's a centralized firewall monitoring solution that for these devices that are outside your organization, you're going to see a hell of a lot more information from that than you will off some corporate device that 5 people behind it. So it all depends, right? Am I trying to be inflammatory and blatant? Absolutely. That's why I call it Project Moneyball. Get your heads out of your butt, people. Just because SAN says you need it doesn't mean you do. And just because it's a base security control, if you're not monitoring it, if you don't have time to implement it correctly, it doesn't do you any good. Save your money. If you're going to leave, I can't tell you how many corporate networks I go into and they're like, well, we can't turn on deny by default because some executive's going to come in here and want to get out to something, and if I don't have my guy 24/7 here, he wants it now. Well, that's bullcrap, and it goes into this bullcrap of how this expectation that we set in organizations that's unrealistic. So I rambled again. That answer your question? Cool. Other examples? I call it like I see it. Come on. Eggs, tomatoes. All right. At Pentest Fail blog, some fun stuff on there. If you want to see a broken ATM from some other stuff, I got emergency alert hacks that are 5 years old. Everybody's talking about the emergency alert system. You don't need to hack anything. You don't have to send a single packet. And I'll show you how. I did it 3 years ago. And me and Brad were on the phone with SLED, and they told me that it wasn't possible. And anyways, software-defined radio, frequency shadowing, equals zombie apocalypse. All right.